Okay. Hi, I'm Dr. Stephanie Husky, and we are going to answer your question of how do we create and sustain the state of flow? Specifically, you ask about how to do that in practice. So, first, let's make sure that you understand the flow state. Flow states happen when you lose yourself so much in an activity that you really lose track of time and you just kind of feel like things are flowing. Imagine a river and how it just kind of flows through. Sometimes we call it being in the zone or being in a groove, and it's really common to experience it when we are creating things or we're doing something repetitive like running. So when we try to make flow happen, it often backfires on us. Um, Very few people can just drop into that flow state, and so we work really hard to try to create it, but it doesn't always work out so well. So it's kind of like trying to get water in your hands. If you grab too hard on the water just goes everywhere. So to get the water in your hands, you have to gently cup your hands and really make space for the water. And flow states are like that too. You can't force them, you can only create space for them and hope that they will happen. So, to make room for flow, we need to ace our space. So, we need an actual physical space and mental space. We need space on our calendar to actually do this activity. We need physical spaces where we can focus on whatever activity we're trying to do. And we need mental space to actually pay attention to the moment. So remember, we can't force flow. We can only make space for it. So we schedule time for our activity, and practices are already scheduled for you. So it's usually just the mental space that really gives us trouble. So let's see how we can ace that space. Once we have that space, we want to absorb ourselves completely in whatever activity we're doing. Nothing else will matter in that space. We want to be totally present in the moment. Does that sound a lot like mindfulness? Well, it is. So, mindfulness is really a practice of controlling your thoughts and attention. And when you practice that enough, it again creates space where flow can happen and we can be totally absorbed in that activity. So, practicing mindfulness might be a little distracting at first, but it's part of the process that can help you create and ace the space where flow can happen. We also want to make sure that whatever activity we're doing is challenging enough. So, as you can see on this chart, if it's too easy, we'll get bored. And if it's too hard, we'll get overwhelmed and anxious. So, it has to be just the right balance for flow to happen. Since your skill level is always developing, really each time you show up for practice or for whatever activity you're doing, it creates a new need. So, it's a new day, it's a new you, and it's a new challenge that you need. And then we want to make sure that we are energized. So even if we create a space where we can absorb ourselves completely in this challenging activity, if we aren't energized in the right way, physically and mentally, then we won't experience flow. Have you ever shown up to practice just mentally drained? I bet that you didn't reach flow on that day. So, music is a really excellent way to create the ideal physical activation. So, sometimes we need to be pumped up, sometimes we need to be a little bit more chill, and to create the best mental space to just do our thing. Music motivates us in a lot of different ways, and so it's a really great tool for setting the mood and creating those routines that allow us to absorb ourselves in that activity. So flow is complicated. Okay, it's more complicated than what we've just broken it down to. And if you want to learn more, there are plenty of books, blogs, podcasts, and videos. But these three little strategies here will hopefully help you remember to kind of ace your space and invite flow in. Keep that imagery of a river in mind as you do this. The river just kind of keeps flowing, right? It's absorbing things that are in its way. It's taking on whatever challenge comes toward it, and it stays energized as it's moving through. So maybe if you can remember that river imagery, then you can kind of think of acing your space and dropping into that kind of mindset where things are just flowing, you lose track of time, you're absorbed in the activity, it's just challenging enough, and you stay energized and engaged in that activity. All right. Good luck, and let me know how it turns out.